Welcome to another episode of Sequel Pitch, this week coming to you live from the fucking Catalina wine mixer. I'm your host Andy Henry, and joining me this week as always are my stepbrothers, the man who has rubbed his testicles on more drum kits than I can count, Ross Harmston.
Oh yeah, and they're very, very salty.
It wouldn't surprise me. Either the number of drum kits or the saltiness of your balls.
The man who has broken out of prison from Planet Bullshit to be here, it's Drew Toynbee.
Thank you very much. Hello there.
And finally, a man who has a luscious V of hair going from his chest pubes down to his ball throw, it's Matt Rushton.
That is factually correct.
You can tie your hair maybe to it, so it runs all the way down.
I actually braid it most of the time. Go for a nice Viking plait all the way down.
Oh, good lord.
So this week our pitchers will be sequelising the 2008 Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly comedy Step Brothers, directed by Adam McKay. This is considered a classic comedy to some, but in case you haven't, or in case it's been a while since you've seen it, let me refresh your memory with the thanks to our handy-dandy synopsis. So when Robert, played by Richard Jenkins, and Nancy, played by Mary Steinbergen, meet and fall in love, they move into a new home with their two 40-year-old man-child sons, Dale, played by John C. Reilly, and Brennan, played by Will Ferrell. The new brothers have an instant hatred for one another, and after a big confrontation, the pair are grounded with no television and told they must find jobs within a month or they will be evicted from the house. We meet Brennan's younger and more successful brother Derek, played by Adam Scott, a helicopter leasing agent who mocks Dale and Brennan for being immature, leading Dale to punch Derek in the face. This causes Derek's downtrodden wife Alice, played by Catherine Hahn, to become aggressively attracted to Dale, and they start an affair. The two brothers start a bond and become instant best friends. Brendan reveals to Dale that he has an angelic voice. Robert schedules several job interviews for Brennan and Dale, and as you can guess, they mess up each one. They return home to find out Derek has convinced Robert to sell the house so he and Nancy can retire and sail around the world. Robert tells the brothers to attend therapy, and we see Brennan become attached to his therapist, Denise. Dale and Brennan decide to start an entertainment company called Prestige Worldwide, and at Derek's birthday party they show a video presentation, including the music video Boats and Hoes, which they film on Robert's boat and end up crashing, destroying Robert and Nancy's retirement plans. Robert spanks Brennan because he is a bad boy. When Robert and Nancy announce their relationship is over and they're getting divorced, Brennan and Dale fight, blaming each other, and decide to go their separate ways. Brennan gives in and asks for Derek's help at his helicopter firm, and Dale works for a catering company. Weeks later, Brennan and Dale appear to be living as functioning adults. Wanting to reunite the family, Brennan volunteers to oversee the Catalina wine mixer, a prestigious event for Derek's company, and invites Robert and Nancy to attend. He also hires Dale's catering company. At the mixer, the singer of the band Brendan hired loses his temper and is kicked out of the event, causing Derek to fire Brennan, blaming him for the screw-up. When all is lost, Robert encourages Brennan and Dale to return to their wild child at heart selves and perform the classic opera Porte Volare. Derek is so moved by the performance that he and Brennan make amends, and Dale ends his relationship with Alice, who doesn't take it well. 6 months later, Robert and Nancy are back together, and we see Brennan and Dale have turned Prestige Worldwide into a successful entertainment company, hosting cocaine events, karaoke events, and Denise, Brendan's therapist, finally, I guess, confesses her attraction to Brennan. So, lads, did any of us consider this a classic comedy when it came out, and do we still consider it a classic now?
It's interesting that you say that, because I remember when this came out. So Anchorman, 2004, I was 15 or 16, and Anchorman was the height of all comedy that had ever existed, and continued to be for me for the following probably 10 years. Anchorman was the funniest thing ever, to the extent that when this came out, I think I convinced myself that there was no way that it could be as good, and because I remember not being fussed about this film, but then maybe starting 2015-ish, when I would revisit it with friends, I think it because it is ever so slightly more grounded than Anchorman, I think it endures better, frankly. I think I laugh more rewatching this than I do Anchorman.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
I've never seen it. I never seen it until
Really?
literally. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's really
I've seen clips of it and moments of the film, but I'm a bit like Drew. This must have when I was that age.
That was our first year of uni.
Yeah, it must have just passed me by, and I never ever watched it until you. It's always been on my list to watch. It's always one of those films where I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it, yeah, and you never do. So I'm kind of glad that I did. And it is a classic comedy buddy movie, isn't it? Like them, the two working together. The thing is with Will Ferrell, he's just great.
It's gold dust, comic gold dust, isn't it?
Yeah. He could just shout anything and it would just be funny. It's just the way he shouts and just the way he is. Yeah, just like I'm just thinking about it now. It's just he's really good. It's an underrated comedy movie, but I think it's a cult comedy movie. Because I think a lot of people like this movie and they want to see a sequel. Funnily enough, like I'm looking on the thing, looking on the internet. Have you seen it, Matt, before?
I have seen it. Yeah, I must admit, for me, Will Ferrell is probably up there with my favourite comic actor. You know, I'm a big believer that everything Will Ferrell's in is brilliant, and it's going to be hard pressed to make me think otherwise. Even things like Holmes and Watson, you know, I'll even forgive that because I do chuckle at that.
Have you seen that yet?
Yes, I've seen it. But yeah, so for me, I have seen this, and my partner and I have watched this film a couple of times. You know, it's in our comedy DVD collection. So I've got a big soft spot for this film, and you know, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly have done some great films together. You know, looking at Talladega Nights and stuff, that whole sequence of comedy, silly comedy that they have done together, but it just works, and I think there is a timeless vibe to it. Answering your question, Andy, is it a classic comedy? I think, you know, it may be overseen by a lot of people, but for those that have watched it, I would say they would label it as a classic comedy film.
Yeah.
I think it's a classic Will Ferrell comedy. I think if you're not really a fan of his, you're not going to like this. But then again, most of his films, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a very particular brand of comedy. Mm-hmm. It is emblematic of that kind of 2000s, the year 2000 to 2010, after we as a society managed to get past the parody movies.
Yeah,
it feels like what came next, and it was, it's kind of passed on a bit now. I can't think of the last comedy, it's like screwball comedy. It's just absurdism. It's like a Dumb and Dumber
remake, if anything, really.
It's that level of just
man-children.
It is absurd.
It's not as funny though now. If they're the films that we're looking at, then I don't find the new Dumb and Dumber film funny. I'm not excited about any new Bill and Ted movie. No.
I mean, apparently Bill and Ted 3 was good fun.
It was,
but
I like this movie because I like it that it doesn't. As weird as it sounds, I know, like, because they're man-childs. Like, I like that they don't like focus on it being maybe they've got learning difficulties or anything like that. That's
just
not
immature.
They're just immature for you, and I really like that. And I think that's why it gives it a timeless vibe in that sense, because it's not. It's a bit different to, you know, other comedies that have that dated, like, insult, like calling someone the F word, or, you know, whatever.
Was there any scenes that stood out? Like this, I guess the sleepwalking scene is a very, you could say, silly scene. That's
one of my favorite small little scenes. I don't know why. It's when he hugs his brother for the first time.
Oh, at the end. And he goes to choke him.
And there's so much aggression there, and it's so good. Like, because they hate each other. I just love that. Like, the physical comedy in it is so good.
Adam Scott going, I don't want to punch you in the face quite as much.
Just very good. Very good movie.
What about the other? Yeah, go on, Drew.
Adam Scott's mate in the helicopter company, he just keeps going, pow!
I can't remember his name.
Are you saying pow? Are you saying pow? He will, if you fuck this up, he will eat your dick like Kobayashi.
We've seen him do it.
It's just so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It could definitely be quite a quotable movie, and I'm sure there's one of the scenes is popular on TikTok at the moment. I'm sure I've heard one. Is it one of the bedroom scenes? The first time when they're sleeping next to each other, and he's like, "I hate you. Don't go to sleep because I will punch you in the face." Like, I don't know why that scene is really quotable in my head at the moment, so it must be somewhere in the internet.
Well, it is. I would say for me, it is now pretty much as quotable as Anchorman.
Yeah,
like did we just become best friends? Yup. And we'll have so much more room for activities.
Anchorman's got more, but it's definitely as. Anchorman's got more lines, I think you can quote, but I can see where you're coming from.
It's
What about the other players that in hand? We talk about Adam Scott. My VIP has got to be Catherine Hahn for the movie.
Oh God,
that vagina monologue she has, which talk about putting Dale up in a vagina, and then like the sex in the bathroom, like 2/3 of the way through. I wish I forgot they didn't end up together, and I wish they kind of did. It's almost weird that they didn't. Is that just me?
Perhaps
I would have
it's
thought she would have
opened door
dumped.
for a sequel.
Maybe. Let's see if someone comments on that.
Adam Scott's character is brilliant in this, and he plays it very funny. And singing the scene with the family singing in the car is so cliche.
Oh my god,
ridiculous! Like I sat there like I thoroughly enjoy this, but I'm also thoroughly cringing at this. It's brilliant.
Like how can they possibly make one family just as hateful as possible, as hateable as they could possibly be in 20 seconds, and they achieve it instantly? It's so good.
Like Richard Jenkins' dinosaur speech when he's kind of getting Dale and Brennan together, when he's like, "Oh, I wanted to be when I was a kid was a dinosaur," and then goes off and does a whole monologue about it. I thought it was very funny. I read that he got embarrassed and he wanted that out of the film, and I can see why. But I laughed. I thought,
really? I'd find his giggling worse than his
Adam
monologue. I think like his childish
Oh,
giggle that he kept doing, and she was like, "I've never heard you laugh like that before."
I think Mary Steenburgen as well. Like the only things that I know her from are this and Back to the Future Part 3. As Clara, and like. And just the scene after they get in the fight on the front lawn and they knock each other out, and she just stands there holding a fire hose and just goes, "What the fucking fuck?" It's so good. It's really good.
And the fight with the kids as well, like the fight with the kids.
The post-credit scene. And I love that when you watch it, like it's anyone who actually interacts in the fight is clearly just a grown-up, and they've barely even bothered to dress them up, and they just do the cut quick enough so that the person falling over it kind of doesn't register, but as soon as you look for it, it's like, oh yeah, they're just punching grown-ups.
It's so blatantly stage combat GC, like university training. You can see where they're completely power punching every time, and there's so the gaps between it just to make sure that no one goes, "Oh, they punch kids." It's like, no, they're even showing you how they didn't punch the kids at the bit on the buddies. Round, what is it? The merry-go-round thing, and he's just like he's nowhere near him. They're just like, I thoroughly enjoyed that they sold you the entertainment factor. But
and the Catalina fucking wine mixer, which this movie willed into existence. That wasn't a thing. And then after this movie, a company on Catalina Island started the Catalina wine mixer, which is. I'd love to go one day.
One day to the Catalina winemaker.
And that final scene where everyone is having transcendent moments listening to them sing.
And again, Catherine Hung's like weird sexual fantasy of John C. Reilly
as a centaur.
Speaking
fake Elvish.
It's got a lot of good bits.
And Will Ferrell as the lumberjack in his therapist one, where he just, "I have travelled 600 miles to give you my seed."
Call him his name. He just shouts lumberjack. That was a strange romance between him and his therapist, but
I mean,
again, mostly that comes into
I don't think
I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. So.
I don't know if we could dive too deep into the romantic narratives in this movie. It probably saves you a lot of head scratching if you don't.
A couple more scenes I got down here. The bunk bed scene, obviously, very classic, very funny scene.
Yeah.
When they try and bury each other, I thought it was very funny. just silly, like he's even like John C. Reilly's like, "Why are you burying me?" And he's just like, "Shh, it'll be over soon" and stuff. And then they fall asleep in the front yard. Yeah. Any final thoughts or any other scenes that stood out before our scores?
No, I think it's a very
very
classic. It's a very classic
Yeah,
for me.
we
It's a
all
very
enjoyed it, it
classic
seems like.
Will Ferrell film and a comedy movie. I'm glad that I watched it now. I think it's got a lot of quotable, like Drew said, it's got a lot of quotable lines. I think once you see it, you will realise that it is a classic movie. And for me, it's very, very good. I can't think of any other scenes at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's peak Will Ferrell. Like I say, if you're not a fan of Will Ferrell, you might not like this film. For me, I think it's great, and I love this film. Again, it's funny, things like Anchorman and Thor Ragnarok to this extent as well. Often the most quotable comedy movies are the ones that you can tell are just improvised. Like the bits where they are lying in the bed, like you can almost feel the energy on camera where full well Will Ferrell's just like, this is the 20th take saying something different about what he's going to do to him.
Yeah.
The bit where and I noticed it's the classic, if you've seen the outtakes of Will Ferrell, he always pauses when he's about to laugh. And I feel like there was a bit when he was like, I'm going to get my pillow and fill it full of soap and beat you with it. Like, you you can just hear the bit where he's about to piss himself laughing. And like those are I think that's why I enjoy it, because you feel like they just have such a good time on set. Like there's probably no stress. I hope there's no trivia saying that this was a horrible filming set, because it feels like it was hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very astute point, Matt. It does definitely bring a particular energy to it. Like I don't know if it's knowing. I don't know if it's something that maybe we appreciate slightly more because we've had to be on stage saying funny things and trying not to laugh. But just those fractions of a second when you spot someone's like lip twitch and they're holding in a laugh.
Yeah.
Like that, it adds so much. It's what a wonderfully absurd film and really fun. And I still love the final line of the film before the post-credits scenes just being Will Ferrell like doing a little complaint about his Chewbacca mask because John C. Reilly's is movie quality and his isn't. Just from beginning to end, it's interesting. One quote that I saw was from Roger Ebert, and he rated it quite low and said, "When did comedies get so mean?" But I feel like this is actually a really generous spirited film. It's really silly, but for me it feels really warm, and the fact that these two complete oddball guys who go to interviews dressed in tuxedos and mess them up by farting, like it's just I think it's a really, really good little movie. I'm really glad that it came up.
That comment's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there is a lot of there's a lot of people who put these guys down throughout the movie and what have you, even the kids in the playground. But I think that's almost like not the funny bit. Like I didn't find myself ever really laughing at the stuff that was aggressive and could be deemed mean. Like that stuff, like especially even things like the white dog shit stuff. I was just like, oh, like I'm not even finding this funny. This is just a bit like, oh god, this is uncomfortable. But I think the humour comes from, as you say, the warmth of John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell performing together, and or the supporting actors when they do have the moments that put them up. It's the moments that lift Brennan and Dale that are the funny moments. And I think that's where, he perhaps missed the mark there in what he was watching. Not that I know his mind or his opinions, but I would beg to differ that I don't think the humour of this movie comes from people putting them down. the humour comes from those characters and the journey that they go on.
Yeah, and just absurdism.
Oh yes, and
Yeah, I think like once you improvise a line that is like, you know, it becomes absurd because you're like, how the fuck did that guy think of that line? It's like, I'm gonna fill a sack full of soap and I'm gonna beat you with it. Like, yes, it's an aggressive thing, but it's like so random that you wouldn't think. Like, that's why for me it was funny, because you're just like,
more the absurdity. Yeah,
it's
Well,
like
and
I stabbed a man in the
because
heart
it's-
with a trident. Yeah, you probably, like it's those improvised lines that are really funny.
yeah.
I feel.
And because also, like, yes, okay, Will Ferrell does begin to bury John C. Reilly in the yard when he thinks he's killed him, but it's empty threats. It's like they are like children bickering, and I think they carry that innocent energy really, really well.
Yeah.
Scores then. Let's go from the top. Matt, what you put?
I'm going to give this a solid 4.25.
Whoa!
Testicles on a drum kit.
Someone had to claim it. Yeah.
I don't know whose
Ross?
the 0.25 testicle is, though. I'm not
Whose
claiming that.
testicles? Yours or yeah?
I'm going to give it 4.25. I'm Dale, but you can call me Dragon out of 5s. Yeah.
And Drew?
You know, I hadn't actually thought about the score before we got to this point, but 4.25 feels like the right score. So, 4.25 time machines full of porno mags from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
In your boat treehouse. Yeah, for me, Anchorman's still probably one of the funniest Will Ferrell movies for me. I think this is just under it. I think Anchorman, I'd probably give like a 4.5 for me. This is going to be 4. Random. Another note I've got out. So 4 random blind dog. Let me do that again. So 4. No, I can't remember now. 4 random blind dog encounters. Do you remember Cinnamon?
Assistance dogs.
Was it assistant? Yeah, like this Cinnamon the dog at the start, where like the actor's trying to like take him off like stage left, but the dog's got different ideas and just kind of takes him in circles.
Whoa, Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Whoa,
like,
Cinnamon.
You see like Will Ferrell react, and then goes back and he's like, Cinnamon, damn it! Made me laugh because I completely forgot about that bit. So, but anyway, 4 for me because just to be different.
Ooh,
Okay.
Cool.
mean.
What does that mean?
Scores then.
It comes out at 4.19 out of 5. A strong recommendation. Coming in tied with A Star Is Born, and behind a few at this point, but just behind Moana, and just ahead of Game Night and Willy Wonka. So ahead of Game Night.
In a Game Night. Yeah, I would. Would you rather watch this or Game Night then?
They're two different movies to compare, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think this has the power of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right, boys, enough of all that lovely chat. Let's get to the fights, as it's time to get your sequels pitched. Let's go. This week, our first pitcher will be Ross Harmson, please. When you're ready. Your title and one-liner.
Hello. My film is called Step Brothers Vacation. My one-liner, which I totally forgot to do, is Brennan and Dale go on a vacation and meet 2 unsuspecting people on this vacation. The film opens and we see Brennan and Dale in their morning routine. We see they are living with each other, making nachos, playing games, and then they get in the most ridiculously looking car. They head to the offices of Karaoke and Roll, or whatever the media company was called. I can't remember. What was it called again?
Prestige Worldwide.
That's it. Prestige Worldwide, we'll call it. Now a multi-million-dollar company. The offices are much like Facebook's, kooky shit all around. They come in and they're told the team are underachieving for the day, so they have to do a big speech to big them up. And they do this by singing Ave Maria, like the end of the first one, with Dale singing Boats and Hoes in the background. People start crying and everything. And then they start doing much better.
Does this man have so powerful voice? Sorry,
yeah, that's their only management strategy.
They start, Anyway, cut to their mum visits the office and tells them that they should all go on a family vacation to Canada with Derek and Mr. Doback, and they agree. Anyway, cut to a funny travelling montage in which the boys play pranks on Derek by gluing his eyes shut. They laugh. Other stuff can happen along the way as well. Maybe they start sleepwalking on the plane and almost open the door to the cabin mid-flight. They get to Canada. They go to Canada. I didn't say that whether they were actually go. Oh no, I did.
I think you did.
Yes. They get to Canada, and the mum tells them that they are going to meet up with two of their friends who also have stepkids. We are introduced to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, played by Whoopi Goldberg and Morgan Freeman, and their two stepkids, Kevin Hart and The Rock.
Oh my god!
No.
Oh my god!
No,
Oh.
Ross is one already.
Let me
How is
just
this
point out, I
done?
didn't bring him up this week.
The next portion of the film is hilarious scenes that take its time padding out The Rock and Kevin Hart's character, because we don't want to just throw them in, and the growing hatred of the two stepbrothers that they have for these two, because they're much better at the boys at everything. This could be through awkward family meals, physical activities that the parents have booked, etc. Dale and Brennan decide to get back at them by putting peanut butter and smearing it all in The Rock and Kevin Hart's tent. Then a bear comes and Kevin gets seriously hurt on his crotch or something. I don't know. The parents all sit down and say they have to get along, so they tell them that they have to go for a walk together. When they do, they come across a group of teenagers that have set up a camp nearby, but the guys get bullied by them, making them eat bear shit or something. They run off crying. Meanwhile, another story point is that there is that Brennan and Dale also meet two women who are also really get on with them, and as nerdy and weird as them, maybe a little love interest story point as well. Brennan and Dale plan on a family hike in which they will lose The Rock and Kevin Hart, but end up getting lost with them. They have to survive out in the wilderness. Insert some funny scenes. Maybe The Rock punching a bear or deer or something. Maybe Brennan eating some weird mushrooms and going on a massive weird trip. Anyway, after some bonding, they learn that they also can be friends and work together. The parents eventually find them, and turns out they've only been gone for an hour. But the boys have stripped all their clothes off and become one with nature. The last scene is them leaving. The last scene before they leave is them beating the shit out of the teenagers. They go back to the airport, do their goodbyes. Both The Rock and Kevin are arrested. Dale looks confused. Brennan says he gave the police an anonymous tip that The Rock had drugs on him. Cue a hilarious laughing end scene. End of the movie.
Yeah, I like it. Right then. So, my question to you, and I guess to the others, what's the story you're trying to tell, and where's the comedy coming from?
My story I'm trying to tell is that, we all have differences. Everyone is different in the world, and the boys haven't ever really seen that. They kind of gathered it with each other, but I feel that I think it would be funny to throw two other stepbrothers who are so close to each other at them and see how weird it is for them, and the physicalness of The Rock and the funniness of Kevin Hart will be quite funny, as these two, you know, they're not exactly God's gift, are they? So it'd be quite funny to do that. And what was your other question? Is that it?
Where's the comedy coming from? I
mean, I think
scenes.
So I think the comedy will come from, you know, The Rock being The Rock and Kevin Hart. I want it to be very much an improvised script with the same sort of stuff as they had in the first movie with Will Ferrell, you know, coming in with one-liners, going to The Rock, you know, you look like a big stupid marshmallow. And then, but the Rock and Kevin Hart are kind of the serious guys, but and they're sort of idolized by the parents. So yeah, I think that way. I think that'll be that's what I'll focus on. So yeah, fuck you.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank you very much. Let's go for our next picture, please, Mr. Drew Toynbee.
Hello there.
Your title and one-liner when you're ready.
So mine is Step Brothers 2, Back to Catalina. My one-liner is, Dale and Brennan return to Catalina with their families to host their biggest ever prestige worldwide event. But when an old enemy returns for revenge, the stepbrothers are dragged back into the life of madness they once lived. So, the movie opens. The first 20 minutes are setting up where the characters are now. Dale and Brennan have their successful karaoke business. It's now a global brand. They both have young kids. Brennan has 2 kids with Denise. Dale and his wife Barb, I'm seeing Kristen Wiig because she seems like a good fit, have 1 kid between them. Dale and Brennan are both still kind of childish but well-intentioned. But their enthusiasm has carried them forward in the business world. Along with some kind of long-suffering employees who work hard to kind of steer them onto the right track. I'm seeing Zendaya because she's so deadpan and so good at being deadpan. Particularly, I'm thinking the energy from the new Spider-Man movies, but being on their like graduate excellence in management program, and so she's the straight man, as it were, to all of their antics, and the audience surrogate learning about the business and like just being like, what is going on? So the inciting incident of the movie is that Prestige Worldwide Presents, which is their X Factor style karaoke competition. It's been growing in popularity over the last 13 years, and it's all sort of being televised. It's a really big year. It's the biggest year yet. And it's the semi-finals, and a red-headed guy has got through the semi-finals in Florida, and he gives the guys a thank you gift, which is some white chocolate truffles. But it's actually white dog poo. The ginger kid is the ginger kid who was best friends with Chris Gardocki, the kid who made them lick dog shit in the first movie. Chris pops up. He's videoed the whole thing on his phone, and he threatens to release the footage if they don't pull strings, so that his friend Gary, we're calling him Gary because in the original he is just called Red-Headed Kid, but he is actually a singer in real life, I've discovered, which is kind of cool. He wants Gary to win the competition at the final the following week on Catalina at the casino, and they'll extort them for extra prizes as well. And so Dale and Brennan, having been kind of semi-functioning adults, instantly regress to being their absolute worst selves, and they have a screaming meltdown at each other. They're doing the "I'm gonna be sick" thing, and just like screaming and crying. And then they come together and they start scheming of how they can get the phone back and access the cloud on Chris's phone and delete the video. So the movie takes place on the road trip from Florida to LA, where the Oh well, it's Santa Barbara, not LA, where the final is going to be taking place, and they're doing televised live shows at theatres across the country. Dale and Brennan are judges on the panel, but they're also producers, so they're trying to sort of run the show. But you have lots of scenes of them trying to kind of take down Chris and the ginger kid. Lots of them being over the top friendly and trying to trick them and just being outsmarted, and having random celebrity cameos and that kind of thing just happening. And again, a large part of my drive of this movie is let the funny people be funny. I've just got the outline and they can deal with the funny lines. All of their families and friends, their employees, start to notice that Dale and Brennan are getting weird, and they're trying to stop them. They try and say, like, look, guys, you're like millionaires. You can deal with this like adults. You can hire a lawyer. You can get the police involved because he's blackmailing you. And they kind of pretend to listen, but they end up getting really drunk, dress up as ninjas, and break into Chris and Gary's room in the middle of the night. Of course, getting caught. They get caught on film again, so they have more evidence. And everything is just mounting up. Their team and family are furious at them for not listening. They have a huge fight. They blame each other. It's the low point of the movie for them. They storm off and they call their respective step-parents. So Dale calls Brennan's mum and Brennan calls Dale's dad, kind of to show that relationship has continued and grown, and they have matured in some ways, and they counsel them to come back together and embrace what makes them special, and they'll work it out again. So on the night of the final, it's held on Catalina Island in the casino ballroom, and the competition gets going, and it comes down to Gary and one contestant, and Gary is actually like super really, really good and clearly better. And so Dale and Brennan sort of confer for a second. They get up on stage, they announce him as the winner, and they give a speech about how Gary is a shining example of someone who can step out of the shadow of a bully and take their own place in the world, just like they had to do. And you see Gary sort of take that message on board. But then, of course, Chris leaves the theatre, uploads the videos. There's a huge PR explosion. Everything's going to hell. It looks really bad. But then people, led by Gary, who is now like famous with a record deal, inspired by their story of rising up above bullying, start uploading videos to social media of themselves dressed as ninjas and eating dog shit as a kind of I'm Spartacus solidarity movement, because I want the absurdity of the first film to come through. So it ends on a completely mad note of, after a big montage of lots of celebrities eating dog shit on camera to show solidarity with bullied kids, Dale and Brennan get the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Biden for services to anti-bullying, and that's the end of the movie.
Nice, very good, very good. Yes, same question. What's the story you're trying to tell, and where's the comedy coming from?
So I wanted it to be that they kind of slipped backwards, because they both showed that they were capable of living as adults. Even though, like, the end of the movie, they show they're capable of existing as adults, and then they go and beat up a load of children and don't realise it's wrong. And so you can take it either way and it will make sense. And I just thought, I just went down the whole of, okay, what would they be doing? The movie says that their business is a success, so how can you grow off of that? And I just wanted to put them in another ridiculous situation, and it made sense to bring the kids who made them lick dog shit back because it was funny, and they would make a fitting antagonist who would have a reason to go after them. And the idea of millions of people across America and perhaps the world eating dog shit dressed as ninjas in a move of solidarity that is played on screen as a big, like, overwhelmingly emotional, uplifting moment, but it's like Emily Blunt and John Krasinski eating dog shit on camera, trying to smile because they're doing it for the kids. I just thought that would be quite funny. As far as where the comedy's coming from, it is basically all just Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly improvising. Like, I've hopefully put them in enough situations where they can improvise and bring what they do best. Like, that's why they have the regression. That's why they That's why it's very specific that this moment that happens when they realise they've been tricked by Chris Gardocki, like, sends them back, and at that point they can just go mad.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Lastly, Mr. Luscious V. Chesthair himself. Matt Rushton, your title and one-liner.
Yeah, so my title is Step Brothers, Prestige Worldwide. Basically, Brennan and Dale are the only hope for Derek and the helicopter leasing business, who need a hell of a lot of money, and they only have one shot at investment. Okay. We open with Derek being appointed CEO of the helicopter leasing company after the previous owner retires. There's a huge party to celebrate, probably back at Catalina. It's a really boozy affair, and then all of a sudden we see a helicopter crash into an orphanage. Thankfully, the orphanage is being renovated, so there were no kids in there, but it still doesn't exactly look great from a PR point of view. There's a big investigation, and they discover a load of dodgy things about this company, some loopholes. They're purchasing the legal files, some dodgy helicopters that aren't fit to fly, all that stuff. And it all comes to light, so Derek basically tells the family over Thanksgiving dinner what's happening, and that he didn't have any clue about any of this, and that he's basically fucked. So yeah, we see all the familiar faces, and Derek's surprise third child, that is a curly-haired kid named Tucker. So basically, the dad can't help. Yeah, I'll leave that in there. Thank you very much. I only bring the pitch, but I might even write the script for this one.
Bravo.
So yeah, the dad can't help. He's invested all the money into Dale and Prestige Worldwide. However, Brennan and Dale say they'll help raise the money with their newest business plan, which is called Karaoke, which is a karaoke machine for people that can't sing, or like a microphone for people that can't sing, and it auto-tunes them. So we then are treated to another one of their amazing presentations and music video trailer things, and they do it over dinner, where, yeah, we see a really funny video, really low budget. And it's basically the advert for the product looks like it's just a load of celebrities, and they're like, so-and-so uses this, so-and-so uses it, Michael Bublé uses karaoke. And they're like, no, you can't do that. That's false advertising. They're like, no, they do. They all use karaoke. These are all people that use it. So lo and behold, they put the advert out, and there's a huge backlash with PR, legal representatives, everyone threatening action, and it really upsets them. And they're like, these are our friends. Why are they lying? They use our product. So there's a load of like tough love and heartfelt moments with the step parents, and another awkward brotherly scene with Brennan and Derek, and Derek's like, oh, I'm losing everything, I'm losing the business, I've got my child Tucker who doesn't understand me, and I just don't know how to be his father for some reason. And then you just got Will Ferrell basically like, no, he's your child, you look identical. Like, for the audience though, it's so fucking obvious this is Dale's child. Anyway, it looks like this new product's not going to sell, and like all the classic kind of like silly business mentality. Prestige Worldwide has spent all their money on the product and the advert, so they're not going to be able to afford their legal fees. They're not going to be able to support Derek. Everyone's pretty low. Like, you know, this is where it's not looking great for them. And it looks like things are about to get even fucking worse when Michael Bublé turns up with his legal team, and they're trying to discuss a settlement outside of court because he doesn't want another court battle. It could probably be like some quippy one-liner about why Michael Bublé had a recent court battle. I'll let the writers pick why, though. I won't even try and make that up off the top of my head. But he basically says that, like, look, it's karaoke is amazing, but you got to understand that I'm a singer, and me admitting that I use this product isn't going to help. Blah, blah, blah. So it's really tough. Again, Brennan and Dale feel really bad. They fuck things up. But then he explains that, you know, like Brennan and Dale have a big monologue about how, you know, we've got to embrace ourselves. We learn to embrace ourselves. You've got to learn to embrace yourself. And in the end, they get through to Michael Bublé, so he not only tells his legal team to rescind all charges, he agrees to help them promote the product properly this time in order to help out the family. So that's been like a big chunk of the movie by now, obviously. The end of the movie sees Christmas again, and karaoke is everywhere. We see Brennan and Dale in New York City. I'm picturing them in like Times Square or one of the big toy shops, and they're unveiling the launch, and Bublé's there, and he sings a Christmas song because it's Bublé, and he promotes the product. And then we see the advert on the big billboards and all the big screens, and it's all the singers from earlier in the movie in the advert that are all there endorsing the product too, and it's a huge success, and they all have like a load of funny one-liners about how karaoke saved their life for whatever reason. And then basically the movie ends with Dale lifting up Tucker and Alice hugging Dale, and there's like a dramatic zoom into Derek's face as the pin drops. The end.
Nice. Very good. What's the story you're trying to tell, and where's the comedy coming from?
I think the story I'm trying to tell is that the family is continuing to build. I wanted to make it more about, their being a brother to Derek. So there's plenty of room for Dale and Derek's relationship to grow in this movie, which is why the whole finding out about Dale lifting Tucker at the end is really, really like funny, because they've had a load of time to build their relationship. So it's a continuation of the first Step Brothers movie in that the relationships are continuing to build, and people are continuing to improve their lives. That's that bit. And where's the comedy coming from? I think in a similar vein to Drew, I guess, it's the whole Brennan and Dale still not realising what they're doing is wrong, and that they're absolutely driven by their heart and not by any kind of business head. So they fuck things up and they do things wrong continuously, but with the right intentions, and that's where the comedy is going to come from. And someone like Michael Bublé, who makes a fool of himself quite a lot in the movie. We always like to see a celebrity cameo, a celebrity throw himself into a comedy movie like this.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Right, 3 very good pictures, 3 very funny and very interesting stories. So now's your time to convince me why your pitch is the best, why the others suck. Let them have them, guys. Fight, fight, fight!
All right. Okay. Well, right. I think it's a hard one for me on this, because it is, these characters are, and the world that they inhabit are just so absurd. Like, plot holes or character inconsistencies don't matter. It doesn't matter if mad stuff happens, and it doesn't seem to make that much sense. So I'm not going to... I don't think I can really put too much effort into tearing down the others necessarily. All I'll say about mine is that I feel like it takes... Of all 3 of our pictures, I feel like mine takes the most inspiration from the first, and it feels the most like a follow-on of the previous movie. And I think that that's what will get people in.
I disagree. I actually feel like...
Oh, well, of course you do.
I feel like mine's the most natural progression, because what Drew and Ross have both done is made them really successful, prestige worldwide entrepreneurs. Where actually I keep mine quite grounded, where they're having a bit of success, but they're still in the ideas phase. They haven't made their megabucks yet. They don't achieve that till the end of the second movie for mine, where these guys have just been like, oh, it's been 10 years, and they've got teams that'll just make them a load of money, and yay, good for them.
You think that their business, with a business being run by these two, liability moron men, would have lasted 13 years without it being successful.
The way I've got it is that true. Daddy's funding them the whole time. He can't help Derek, his other stepson, because he is just putting all his money into keeping these two afloat. It's like The point is, the business isn't doing well in my movie. It's just like...
But at the end of the first one, it is. They're like,
Well,
it's going
yeah, but-
really well. We're everywhere.
Yeah, they say
Yeah.
that they're in 3 restaurants and 2 hotels. Like, they're not everywhere at all. Like, there's a lie. And it's probably, who knows, that's probably like the Premier Inn equivalent in the UK and the local Wetherspoons pubs, you know, like, it doesn't have to be that they're in these fine establishments.
That's fair.
But no, like I would just say that again. I like all 3 pitches, but I do feel that mine keeps these guys a lot more grounded. And yeah, I don't know about bringing Ginger Kid back for X Factor styling. I would wonder where that premise of Prestige Worldwide Presents came from. I would like to know more about that story. Before I can fully believe that they came up with a TV show like that.
I mean, they ripped off X Factor because that's what I did.
Are they clever enough to rip off X Factor? That seems like malicious business intent from their part. And I don't need to bring The Rock and Kevin Hart into my movie for a vacation, because otherwise the vacation just wouldn't be funny enough. Is the vibe I'm getting.
That is a point. I would worry that The Rock and Kevin Hart might actually pull a bit too much focus. But,
Well, that's what you think, mate. But you should pick mine, Andy, because mine leans towards the absurd. Gives the actors the ability to go off the wall. I'm leaning towards the whole he sings a song at the end of the first movie and literally touches people to start to do all this shit. So that's why I've lent towards that, and I think The Rock and Kevin Hart inject some modernness into my movie and a modern audience who massive fans of The Rock and Kevin Hart as well. I don't think that's a bad thing. These 2 guys have written very good pitches. I can't really fault them, but you should mainly pick mine because it's better. So yeah.
Oh, we're all very
Basically, you've got
civilised,
3 the best
aren't we?
pitches.
Wow.
So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mine's the best because that's what I'm dealing with this week. Lovely. No worries. Anyone got anything else to chuck in? I think I've come up with a decision, but if not, there
in
we
true
go.
stepbrother
It's,
fashion, I will just save it all for when they're sleeping.
yeah, and then beat them over the head. That's exactly right. Right, who do we start with? Ross, didn't we? Ross. Actually, I'll do it all generalize of all 3. I think I'll break easier. I really like all your stories are really good. You've all got very good comedy bits that are very easy to spot. Ross, you've obviously got the singing the opera song. If you go down the route that this guy's got like some magical voice and it inspires these workers, I do like that. You've got a great cast. The whole car montage thing I can see being very funny. One with nature. I don't know, the thing I'm kind of dealing with yours a little bit is this I do kind of agree, does maybe The Rock and Kevin Hart maybe overshadow the was it Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly? Do they necessarily need... I like the idea of the 2 battling families. Do we really need it to kind of go in nature? But still really liked it. Yeah, Drew again, very funny, very good. The ninja scene, I like the family again. Road trip, I can see being very funny. You brought in Zendaya, I think, which I would have been keen to see more her interact with the other 2, maybe become like a babysitter.
The intention was for her to be present throughout.
Yeah, but maybe have a bigger part in the bigger part of the story.
I fully admit that it is my failing of leaving this very bare bones.
And also a bit similar to Ross today, you got same antagonist. Maybe you could have had anyone, but you chose not a bad thing, but you could have brought in someone new. Matt, like the opening, I like yours. I like your idea. Obviously, like the Tucker babies angle. I really like the idea that Derek is leaning on these 2 for help, and I kind of wish you followed through with that more throughout the whole of the film. it kind of turns into a courtroom drama or comedy, which actually would have been also more fun maybe to explore if the whole thing was a courtroom drama. But there we go. My thoughts. I like them all. Very funny. I'm going to go with the story I like the best, and the one I think will probably take the least to change. And I think that's going to be Ross this week, because his was very funny. I think if we pick one route, either we have a competition between the two families, or they become really good friends and then they go to nature and then they get lost and maybe that separates them. I think that's my reason for picking Ross's today. Matt, I was so close to picking yours. And Drew, I both really liked your premises.
But we didn't have Dwayne Johnson in. That's where we really fucked
didn't
up.
Have Dwayne,
that is where we fucked up tonight, boys.
Every pitch has to have him in it, obviously.
It does. So it doesn't have to have them two. I like the idea of the two battling families. But obviously, The Rock and Kevin Hart are a very good pairing. Like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, they bounce off each other very well.
Nice.
Yeah, I obviously I couldn't say it in the argument section, but I was like, there's no way Ross hasn't won this one. So.
Yeah. Ross, congratulations. Why don't you tell us what we're watching for the next episode?
Next time on Sequel Pitch, we are going to be pitching our movie sequels for the 1982 classic E.T. But I won't be just on my own as a host. I will be joined by Alex Gilston, writer for Film Focus Online and one of the hosts of the Jump Cast podcast, to do your sequels for E.T.
Ooh, E.T. Wow. There we go. That's going to be fun. I haven't seen that in years. So that's going to be a one to talk about. Well, we fought and we made up and become a family again. Thank you to everyone for listening. What was your pitch for Step Brothers 2? Let us know on all the socials. Just search for Sequel Pitch. Big thanks to our pitchers today. It's goodbye from our winner, Mr. Ross Harmston.
Thank you. I'm gonna roundhouse you in the face with a stone wall plasterboard, bitch.
And goodbye from our runner-up, Matt Ruston.
I have nothing to compete with that. Goodbye.
And goodbye from our other runner-up, Drew Toynbee.
It's okay that my Chewbacca mask isn't movie quality.
I will leave you in one of the most famous quotes George W. Bush ever said: "Families is where our nation finds hope, our wings take dream." Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye.